possibly go wrong? Keep coming. Keep coming. Oh! You hit my left. Welcome back, guys. So, as promised, I will attempt to get this Toro snowblower up and running again. It's a power shift 1132. Like I said, the guy said it's just been sitting for a few years. Said it worked good before it sat. I think he got a newer unit. This one was actually too big. Older Briggs and Stratton motor. I kind of like these style carburetors. I've done a lot of work with them, and they're pretty neat in almost the simplicity of them, and how they are put together is kind of more user friendly than smaller carbs that you would see today. A couple issues right off the bat. I took this side cover off to just sort of gain access. I do want to give this a nice pressure washing before I get too far into it, just to make it a little easier to work on and cleaner. Not that that matters. Yeah, a couple issues right off the bat. The pole start is broken. The cord is still kind of in there, so I'll take that apart, see if I put a new cord, a new handle on it. It's missing the electric starter. Not a huge problem if I can get this dialed in right where it'll run no problem with the pull start. Other than that, I mean, the augers are tight. They're not freewheeling. I haven't taken this off yet to look at the belt to see what condition they're in. It doesn't have any old gas in it, which is a good thing, because the ethanol and the gas today, it will eat away at everything. Not so much the plastic tank, but I'm talking about the innards of the carb, just making it really nasty. So I think I'm going to give this a nice wash, and I will turn you back on in a minute. And doesn't that look a whole lot better already? Unfortunately, that's where the looking better stops. So I already started tearing into the issue of the pull start not pulling, and the rust inside here is not so much what I'm worried about. What worries me is what I found right up here. This is the coil wire. Sorry, battery died. So, coil wire right here, and it looks almost like it's been either chafing, come on, focus, or something was chewing on it at one point. So I don't know if that's going to be able to be salvaged. This right here is part of the pull start system. It's sort of an old school design. It works very well. It's a ratcheting pawl. It moves freely one way and locks in the other to crank the engine over. And it has good compression. At least I can feel that, so that's a plus. Along with that, this spark plug end, I don't know if you can see that metal piece in there, should be a perfect circle, and it's just kind of like, it's just sitting on there and then not. But I think I can fix that with a pair of pliers pretty easily. But first thing I want to do is see what the fix is going to be with this, see if I need to order parts or not. So let me set you up in the stand, and I'll be right back. Alright, so pull starts Very simple. Usually held on with 4 bolts, 5 bolts. You can see the sort of circular bolt pattern. I've already taken out 2 of them, but there are 2 left. So I'll zip those out. Let's see. So how this style is, oops, sorry. Stay out of my way, will ya? So, very easy to take apart. This tab and this tab. Just gotta bend them up and this whole assembly will sort of come out. You gotta be a little weary. There is a big spring inside that will want to come out at you. Just something to keep in mind. You can get away with just doing one. No. I will do both. Alright, here comes the tricky part. Take it out nice and slow, take your time. We'll be able to wind this all in later. And there's the actual, you can see, I don't know if you can see, there's a little indent there that grabs through the cover. It looks like the rust was the reason this was not working so well. The spring is not broken. Inside this housing, you can sort of see that wear mark. Spring just sits there to keep tension, sits against that bushing, keeps it centered. They're very, very simple, very user-friendly is a better term, as far as servicing, changing the string out, because as you can see, the string's still pretty long. It looks like just the handle popped off. So I will get some new string and I'll be back in a minute. And we're back. So I kind of skipped ahead a little bit. I kind of don't want to put a ton of money into this unless I'm sure it's worth it. So what I did was I fixed, or temporarily fixed, the old string and got it so pulls no problem. I saved you the hassle of watching a reassembly of it because it's a little tedious, and one thing I definitely recommend is make sure you watch how it comes apart, because the last thing you want to do is get that spring wound up nicely inside of here, which is not an easy task, and then realize that you put it in backwards, because that's definitely not what I did. Take my word for it. But yeah, it can be a pain. So let me see if I can get this mocked up enough to where we can at least crank it over, see if we have spark, maybe dribble a little gas down the cylinder, see if it fires up, and we'll go from there. Alright, let's see about getting that plug out. One second. Noise alert. I think I already did that. Just wanted to double check. You never want stuff to fall into the cylinder if you can avoid it. I don't know if you guys can see that. Not horrible. Definitely not as fouled as I thought it was going to be. So let's shoot a little starting fluid in there. And let's just see what happens. I know we haven't checked for spark yet, I'm just curious. Let's check for spark. I gotta make this end a little tighter. Sorry if I keep bumping into you guys. Alright, still in focus. Let's see. I see nothing. No spark. So, I don't think this has points. The older style engines use what are called points and condenser as a way to create spark. I won't get into that now because I don't think that's what this is. May just need a coil. Let me pop this cover back off and see if we can see any sort of smoking guns. Alright, we're back. So, I popped that cover back off, and I did, before I put this together and checked for spark, I did check, and I wrapped this with some electrical tape for now, just so on the off chance it was sparking out, it would protect it. For those of you who thought I might have forgot that, which is not unlike me, but I didn't forget. Also, I did not forget to make sure the key was on. So the first thing I started checking was, is it registering that the key is on? And if you unplug it, it is. But as soon as you plug it in, my meter is reading I don't know if you hear that beeping noise. It's reading that it is grounded, even though it was on. Switch it to off, still grounded. And that's not right. It should be no continuity in the on position and continuity in the off position. That's how it grounds the coil and shuts it off. So I started looking around, and first thing I saw, I don't know how well it'll show up on the camera. You see that wire right there? It is chafed and cut through, and it's grounding itself up against the block, and that is the kill wire. Goes right to our coil. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get that off where it is, see if I can route it a little bit better. Obviously cover up the chafed section, and we'll try again, see if spark comes back. Alright, we are back together. I've quote-unquote fixed the chafed ground wire. Let's see if we have spark. I think I see it. Alright. Sometimes things work. Now, the question is, will she fire? Trying to get you out of the line of fire here. Well, let's see what happens. Did we lose spark? Oh, we have spark. Let me try putting some actual gasoline down there. Sometimes starting fluid isn't the best to work with these. Be back in a minute. Alright, gasoline has been dribbled everywhere. Let's see what happens. Still nothing. Let me hook up a compression gauge just to make sure. Feels like we got something. I'll be right back. Well, number one, I don't have my compression tester here. It's at work. Number two, I don't think there's a problem with compression. And number three, I may or may not have just broke the pull cord that I was stupidly trying to use temporarily. Oh well, easy come, easy go. I have some para cord just for that kind of thing in here somewhere. So I will find that, but in the meantime, let's start taking apart the carburetor. Doesn't look too bad from the outside. Usually they're all gummed up, or you also don't know if it was sitting with any gas in it. The right thing to do is run it out of gas. Drain the gas out of the tank and let it run till it dies. That's sort of your best bet. Some people use Sta-Bil and some people use other stabilizers. I've seen them do more bad than good when it comes to that sort of thing. If I ever come across one, I'll point it out to you. But I've pulled carbs apart that weren't running, and the fuel bowls had this green, almost like a film on the inside, and that is a telltale sign of stable fuel that has been sitting in there way too long. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. What I'm saying is it shouldn't be relied upon as much as it is, in my opinion. Anyway, end rant. I run Star enzyme fuel treatment and Seafoam in all of my gas-powered devices. So the way these Briggs carburetors are set up, the idle screw is right up here. The main jet goes through the body, and you have to take that out before you can separate this cap. I'll show you why in a minute. It kind of goes through both. It can be done. It just should not be done, because if you bend it, it's not a good idea. The mixer jet, hold on. Focus, there it is. Jet doesn't look horrible. It's definitely got some schmutz on it, but not completely fuzzy. And here comes the fun part. I'm going to spray a little bit of penetrant in there, just to give me a fighting chance. See if maybe I can show you what I'm looking at. I don't know if you can see in there. There's a little tiny, there it is, brass jet. You see the slot. You got to use a flathead to get in there. They like to not come out. Is basically the problem. So you got to make sure you get a nice narrow profile screwdriver, one that doesn't sort of bulk out towards the end, or else you won't make it all the way down the hole. Get a nice solid bite on it, and I think I got it. Every now and again you get lucky. I mean, it still won't run, but hey, I got it out. Here it is. This is the main jet. And I can already see, without even using a light, that it is blinding you. It is very plugged all the way through. So this has now become a job for the ultrasonic cleaner, which I will fire up in a minute. And as far as separating these, I just sort of take the plastic end of the screwdriver and give them a good whack. Not too bad, actually. I've seen a lot worse. There's like almost like a residue at the bottom, but nothing terrible. Check out the float. So what I have here is the top half of the carburetor, which contains the needle and seat, also the float, sorry. This big round uppy downy thing is the float, and it does exactly what it sounds like. In an upside down world, it is sitting in the carb and in the downward position, and as soon as gasoline gets in, it sort of floats to the top of the carb to shut it off. As soon as it needs more gas, it opens up. And that's all done with, let me just pop this apart. All done with the help of this, which is the needle. Focus. A little tiny. Rubber tip on the top to seal up against the inside of the carb. But pushes up, stops the flow of gas, comes down, lets gas in. Very simple, not very complicated. Been used for years and years. It's the basic principle of every carburetor out there. And even though it's not that bad up here, let me pull this idle jet just to be sure. A good tip is when you're loosening things like an idle jet, focus. When you're loosening up things like an idle jet, sort of take a mental note of where the screw's position is. And what I'll do is I'll wind it all the way in. There's a half a turn. There's a full turn. There's another half a turn. Let me get you out of the glare. And there's 2 full turns. Yeah, call it 2.5. So it was 2.5 turns out. You can just use that for reassembly purposes. There is a spring there. Don't worry, it is not going to shoot out at you. You just pull it straight out carefully, and there is the little jet for idle speed. Again, not dirty at all, which is nice. So I will set this back up, get the ultrasonic cleaner fired up, and I will get you back when it is time to reassemble. Alright guys, it is a couple days later. I got kind of, I don't want to say frustrated, but I hit a wall with this thing because I didn't have a couple of tools I needed to test a couple of theories I was kind of making about it. I did bring home my compression tester, and I did end up having good compression. But in between that, I took the muffler off, and I was just making sure the valves were not being stuck, opening and closing. I took the intake port off as well. I did soak the carburetor in my nice little ultrasonic bath. It really wasn't dirty. The inside of the bowl wasn't bad. A couple of the jets were just not even bad. Carb was clean. I'm pretty sure the issue with this thing was the loss of spark, and that is what I'm going to go with. So I just bolted this on. I have to get rid of this fuel filter. One thing about gravity-fed engines, you really don't want to put a paper style filter like that on there, because it can starve it for fuel. I've actually seen that time and time again be the only issue with a machine. You should run one of these. As useless as they seem, it is a filter, and it does have a screen in there which does block debris. And these older carbs, they are a lot more hardy than the newer stuff. I mean, it's got some good size holes in the jet, so even if a little stuff did get through, it would sit right in the bottom of the bowl, and you really would have to get this thing very, very clogged up to dump a bunch of sand into the gas tank to see some issues from debris with one of those filters. So it is a good second means of defense, first line of defense, whatever line you're on. Anyway, I'm rambling. So I got it full gas, The kill for this is still disconnected. I still have to fix that wire. I did put a brand new pull cord on there. I am no longer being an idiot as far as that's concerned. So let me get you set up in the stand. We'll give this a couple primes and see if we can finally get it afire. All right, let's see what happens. Try with the choke off. Let's see. Gas cap on. Little choke. Unfortunately, I don't have the primer ball hooked up, and these are supposed to be primed. So let me substitute a little prime here. And we'll see what happens. All right, she runs. Let me get a fan on in here, and we'll fire her back up and dial in the idle and wrap this project up.